It's interesting how the analysts are already out in force. The Financial Times has done a fascinating piece about where they suggest that the Conservative collapse can be dated to Boris Johnson's victory in 2019. I think they're wrong, and they produce a very interesting data flow, and they talk about the 2019 victory as an artificial high, and since then they've been in free fall. Well, yes, but they've been in free fall since about the middle of 2020, or just after that, and that's really when the rot starts to kick in, and the Partygate scandal emerges, and I don't think it's about the 2019 election. It's about the shock of the misplaced trust. So the FT says that one key part of the puzzle is that Johnson's victory was much flimsier than it first appeared. And so it tries to place the blame on the Red Wall, those people who defected from Labour, who were motivated by get Brexit done and keeping Jeremy Corbyn out of power, not by a deep support of the Conservative Party. Well, that's true. But the loss of those people would simply have taken the Conservative Party back to that knife-edge majority, which was won by Theresa May, or may have improved that, because that was partly Theresa May's squeezing into a minority government was a reflection on her inability rather than the Conservative Party as a whole. And I think the bigger question is the impact of Brexit, and that's not something that this article by John Byrne-Murdoch really wants to address. It's as if people want to keep quiet about Brexit, and with Corbyn gone and the Brexit deal signed, the two strongest ties between many voters and the Conservatives were cut. No, because even though the Brexit deal was signed, it was then implemented by a fool, Lord Frost. And so it's not just a battle between what he says is popularism and deliverism, though I think that has an element in the collapse. The bigger collapse is about a loss of trust. And that's not only about the failure of the Conservative Party, it's about the rise of social media and the ready news, ready fake news as well, but that readiness of news. And I think the article which is pumped out is a misread, going all the way back to towards the end. He says the result has been a hemorrhaging of votes in all directions. Parties usually trade off votes on one flank for the other. In 2015, David Cameron lost ground to UKIP on the right, but won over Liberals and Labour voters. Rishi Sunak is losing millions to the left, right and centre all at once. In his historic 1997 defeat to Labour, John Major held on to 60% of the voters who had backed the Tories 5 years earlier, rising to 70% of those who, with the most socially conservative views. His party was humbled, but its base remained intact. Now, that I think is correct. That's a reasonable assessment. What has happened is the entire Conservative Party is being eroded. Not just the left and the right, but the centre as well. The centre is having its heart ripped out from it, and the coup de grace probably was on the 6th, with Rishi Sunak scarpering off like a spoilt child, going back to his toys, And I think that is going to kill the Conservative Party, unless somebody like Penny Mordaunt can find some way to revive it. But the remnant of the Conservative Party after the next election, taken over by Penny Mordaunt or Nigel Farage, will be the death, the annihilation of the Conservative Party. It may keep its name in some form, but it will become Reform. And there will be no place for the more liberal wing of the Conservative Party, which is the bigger part of the party, not so much the noisy part. And I think all parties need to reflect that the noise which we hear is often from the very small group of activists, not from the bigger group of supporters. And then to that is added the smaller group of swing voters who can decide an election. But it's that bigger group which is lost to the Conservative Party, and that is fundamentally destructive. And I think a much better article in the FT by John Byrne Murdoch would not have been this, which is futile and pointless and just taking up space. It would have been a comparison between the Conservatives now and the Liberal Party at the end of the First World War, and to see why did the Liberal Party collapse at that point. What did it lose? How did it lose its core vote? Because that's what's happening now. And in the end, I'm afraid, with social media and with the knowledge of, with the immediacy of information, Rishi Sunak will be blamed. And I don't think he can get away from that. This is more than just a Gillian Duffy aberration. This is an evisceration, and Rishi Sunak has carved the hole in the flank of the Conservative Party with his behaviour. And I don't even think it's the £2,000 lie. It's the snub to the veterans on D-Day. That is, Mrs. Jones, who has a little farm. Is she going to vote for Rishi Sunak? Her father fought in the Second World War and was at D-Day. Would she vote? No. She will stay at home.